Brain on. It's a Thursday. Website one pairing. I think Karen from yesterday. It's Michael, Sam, and Laura. Yes.
Just get an insulated box and put it around it.
Right. Yeah, that's the blanket's probably a fire hazard, so we should probably avoid that. We're talking about Michael's beeping modem that seems to think its battery is running down. That's an interesting feature of our ongoing pairing sessions. Yes, we had got to a point, yeah, that acceptance tests were passing, were they not, Michael?
Yeah.
Uh,
I was running.
And that was me playing around with the things. Had I pulled down, I think I might be doing something else here. Control D. Oh, wrong thing. Oh dear. Okay. Let's lose that session. Which branch are we on? Come back. Okay. Yes, karma credit for visiting. That's the one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna clear that out. Okay. Right. And yeah, I hadn't run the tests. Let's kick off the tests in the background and run all of them just for good measure and remind ourselves of where we were up to. Where is my Ruby mine? Here is my Ruby mine. One thing I did this morning is I added some documentation. I put pull request into project scope to add some documentation.
You did what?
Say again.
Oh. Project
The
scope.
pull request, project scope. Yeah, just mentioning that. And you, one of Armando's TAs is playing with it. So he was asking questions, and on the basis of questions, I updated the README and put in the pull request. The pull request, which failed,
failing for some reason.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, arg. The those numbers are changing slightly, which is slightly worrying. But anyway, I think we won't look at that now. Website one, yes. So we'd popped these things in here. This delegating thing. It feels like there should be I feel like there should be a smoother way of just saying, if you've got a method missing, ask Karma if it can do it. Or maybe that's a bit too loosey goosey.
Just going back to project
Scope.
scope. Do we have what is it called?
A banana.
No.
A direction. A next task that we would work on.
No, I think we don't have a VCR in here. Or do we?
I think we do.
We do?
I think we do. I think we do. I might be wrong. We could quickly answer that question. At least I thought I put one in, but I could be wrong. Features, support, fixtures. We do.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how it's changing then.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's why that's worrying. But it may be these other ways. But I think
I see two cassettes though, and there seems to be many more features than that.
It's possible. Well, there's only two. There's only two that are doing external things. The other ones are just configs. There's only two features that actually hit that.
Weird.
Interestingly, Pat was saying about Plus that they've used WebMock rather than VCR. I'd be interested to have a discussion with him about that at some point. Anyway, I was looking at a thing.
Yeah.
Here, what have we got there about different approaches to this is Ruby delegation. And I was reading a couple of blogs about different ways to do that. So, well, which might be just interesting to look at here. So they talk about explicitly delegating things, which is like having methods that just call the methods on. You could have a method missing thing, which would do it. Which is, I guess in some ways that's sort of, it feels like that's like so boilerplate. There should be just like a way of making that happen. So forwardable, which is what we're using here. This is the approach that we've used, which is you forward a specific, forward to a specific designated object. Fair enough. And then we've got here, if your project includes active support, which it does, we can delegate a specific method to an associate object. So we could use that. And then simple delegator provides the means to delegate all supported method calls to the object passed into the constructor, and even to change the object being delegated to a later time. But that's involving changing the class hierarchy. But it's sort of, I had thought that we could just do, if we use Ruby include, that I guess that ends up being modules rather than classes. Because include adds things in the current module. Can we do Ruby includes classes? Can we just include a class? Including a Ruby class from a separate file. No, that's requires using the include in the general sense. Inheriting class methods from mixins. Include can only be used with a module. Ruby include. Keyword.
So what are we actually investigating here?
Well, I was just looking at, we've our delegation.
Yeah.
Is this the best way to describe this at the moment? I guess I'm just looking while I'm running the tests in the background, which are failing. Because what? Duplicate key violation. Rake DB test prepare.
So I got one of those intermittent failures on documents feature.
In what's that one? Oh, when you were running the tests for this one.
Oh, yeah. Seems like some of our intermittents are back on local development machines.
Yeah, it comes and goes. I mean, we're looking at something similar on local support as well at the moment, and Marcelo reposted that blog post about how basically it's a nightmare. Did you read this one? There's just the nature of the. I've got to read it again slowly, I guess. Okay, so I'm on the test there. I mean, I guess, in some ways we could just leave it and move on. It was just a sort of a thing to look at while the tests are running. Really? What's wrong there? That's what? Oops, wrong thing. I think all I have is an extra line in there. Well, is that a change that we didn't? Have you got stuff that isn't committed on your side? I think that Rails helper thing, that was, I thought we fixed that yesterday. That's that the spec is we generated the Karma thing, and so not the factory, but the model spec, or no, or maybe we did a generation on a different project. But so I think our code is older. Is that? But did you not encounter that issue on your machine?
No. Which one?
Well, I just got here. I tried to run the specs.
Okay.
Maybe that was that you didn't run BER. Just either I saw this already with the Karma, or I did it with some other generation. But with I think with Rails 4, it ends up doing require Rails helper, and our specs were originally generated for Rails 3, and we don't have a Rails helper. We just have a spec helper. So
okay, maybe we should
we get out of Rails a bit, just what have you. So now I get back to the same. Yeah, we could include a Rail. I mean, I'd almost be half tempted to do a recreation of those, but
I wouldn't do that right now.
Do what?
Recreate them right now?
No, I agree.
Unless you like shaving yaks.
Well, there's so many yaks, so little time. So, and again, why am I? I think I'm just going to have to reset the. I guess if I reset the database, no, it's a test data, isn't it? DB and reset Rails env equals test. What's going on here? It's trying to insert something into the projects, and it's getting a duplicate thing. It's got a big long stack trace. This factory goal. This is in the project controller spec. Looks like we've got some mechanism for. Huh. Okay. Let's just do PER. So resetting the database seems to insert some base data.
Right, but that should be in development mode, not in test mode.
Yeah. Okay, well, at least I'm running the specs now.
It's possible that you had something in there from before.
Yeah, well, we have a database migration, and yeah, I mean, I think, or it just got. I think when we get, it's one of the things with our spec when it kind of gets stuck halfway through on one error, and just the state of the the rate that test DB prepare is maybe not cleaning it sufficiently to or I don't know if that even works anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
So Karma 1, Hangouts attended with more than one participant. That's a user. Has that been generated automatically for us?
Yeah.
It's the factory it's been generated for us. Okay. Yeah, I guess include is really designed to be used with modules. And modules can introduce those things. What we have is we have a particular object that we want to delegate to. So it seems like there's an option to adjust that with. There's some other options there, but we shouldn't. I guess we shouldn't get distracted by that. So I'm getting a whole series of failures there. What is going on here? what commit are you on? 090298C?
I haven't run the specs yet, so.
Oh, okay.
09, yeah.
Yeah, checking.
So I get that error with
the spec, looking for the Rails helper.
right. Where the hell is that at? Look at projects.
Okay, gosh, this spec is taking a long time. But so we've got that component there. We've got a new Karma model, which is just operating as a sort of data store at the moment, which is just fine. Models, Karma, yes. And we've got an acceptance test. Why would the authentication specs? Or I guess there's, who knows? And we've got a feature test, which is users activities feature that now will try and list the number of Hangouts attended. Yes, and that's passing.
All right, now I'm getting that issue that you were getting. Unique violation error when that had already failed. So how do I go on?
Okay. So
How did you solve that?
I reset the database. Rake db reset Rails env equals test. Interestingly, the errors I'm getting here now seem to be related to yeah, I think I need to run npm install here. I wonder.
I mean, Rails m equals test didn't seem to really stop it from. I mean, no, it didn't seem to stop it from changing develop. I'm assuming too.
Well, I might be wrong. If you've done Rails _ env equals test, then that will the change will only occur on.
Maybe I put quotes around the test. That's probably it. Anyway.
Well, I could quickly check that if I can get Rails console to come up very fast.
I'm working ER. I'm running RSpec now.
Yeah.
Okay, so far.
Yeah, and I think the errors that I've got relate to npm install issue here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I did Rails env test, it has not affected my development database.
Did you put quotes around tests or just raw?
No, I can show you here like this. This was the precise command that I used.
Yes, so I put it first and not bundle exactly. Yeah. Anyway.
What the key thing I should check is that the
that passes. Everything for me passes.
Right. I'm just going to do the acceptance tests. There. Oh, I found a new feature with hub that you do hub issues like this, and you get you don't know? Oh, I could do. What? Oh, hub issue, and it gives a list of the issues on the command line.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, so the acceptance test is passing for me. I'll run the whole. Is that going to break it all now? Okay. So, and I get I guess what we we also want to, I mean, other things that we want to do, I'm just going to look at the ticket that we're working on, include, we want to remove the other comma value from the database. I guess, should we finish working on the comma calculator to be inserting this new value into this thing? This is where we are. So we were doing so the things I can think of that we want to do are, so there's like have comma calculator insert into this table, remove comma total from user table, create all the other comma breakdown elements in comma table, and then we want to ensure that any reference to these throughout codebase is linked correctly to comma table. Yeah, I mean indirectly by the user or what have you, but
Right.
Does that seem like a sensible set of things to want to do?
Yes. Yes.
Is there anything I'm missing that we need to do?
Yes.
Oh, what anything?
What is the name of this ticket? Let me make sure. Oh, actually, change karma calculator so that it calculates or gives credit for
Right. Yeah, and I was sort of including that here, which is like to insert into that table. It includes the new calculation. Yeah, that could be broken down to a subtask. Yes. Interesting. I don't know. There's a particular logic to doing it in one order or the other. Can see two separate, like we kind of, yeah. Okay. So what's happening here? That looks like, yeah, all of the R specs are running clean for me now. That's running there. I was half tempted like to change that to a 1 and that to a 1 and a 1, just because the default values are zeros, to see if that all links up. But so at the moment, the Hangouts attended thing, we've just basically adjusted the activity page so that it will pull directly out of this part of the database. I guess if we focus on a sort of a traceability mentality, then the question we might ask is, for our karma calculator, at the moment what we do is, when we run the karma calculator, we calculate all of the components separately, and then we set them on the user. It doesn't explicitly call user save there, which is interesting. I wonder if that's done in the rake task. I presume we have a task of some description that does that. Well, I think the karma calculator update is on the user has a post save hook or something. Yeah. So we've got after validation, we have that being performed automatically. And then after validation is, it's basically, it's part of the save process. So save doesn't need to be called explicitly. I mean, or it's being called as a result of some other.
Do we have a task that just goes through and saves them all again?
I don't know if we have a test. Do we have a task? Yes, I think we do, and I think that it's the G. I think what I worked out is that the currently what we've got running on Heroku is
Right.
we've got something, and we've got a task that is, oh god, what's the word? Yeah, it's like saving them all for the geocodes, and then that has the side effect of also updating the karma.
So do we have to? I mean,
God,
was that just for convenience of coding, or was that because you don't? Because it would cost more money to have two tasks, or what's the?
I think it was. I mean, originally there was no task, and they just set this up so updated when you saved your
No,
user.
but I'm saying, do you? I mean, you have like a background worker, right?
Yeah, we have the Heroku scheduler, and I'm just checking which one it is, or I'm trying to.
And you can tell it to do like. You can tell it to do that geocoding at 12 o'clock, and at 3 o'clock do the.
Oh, yeah, I could have separate ones. I don't.
Or is it? What I'm saying is, is their model in such a way that it's per task that you pay, or per? I mean,
Yeah, well. Some people have suggested that scheduling thing. I think it's just run on the normal dyno.
the normal dyno.
I
mean, the way it's
yeah,
working now, it runs on the I don't know. I don't think you're understanding what I'm asking, but anyway.
maybe. Yeah, I mean, the answer is I don't know what it's running on, right? I mean, I know that I can add Heroku scheduler to Heroku, and it will run tasks, and it doesn't appear in the billing. And people have suggested to me that having these tasks potentially incurs additional costs.
Mm-hmm.
But God, so I think this happens. This API limit thing. This happens if I have.
I think basically you get a worker.
Yeah.
That turns on when the task runs.
Right. I think
and then
that's probably
off. So it's
like
a transient cost. The worker's $7 a month if it ran all the time, so it's not that bad, really.
Right.
Because obviously the task is not going to run all day. So
no, indeed,
and I think it's
indeed
prorated or whatever.
Yeah. My Chrome is being very, very slow at the moment. I think the reason I can't log into Heroku, I've seen this before, tab open with Heroku in it, and if it's polling, I have to use the activity monitor.
We also have a task for local support, right? To pull in that data.
We do, yes. My machine is starting to trying to work out if there's some task that is. It's usually the
Where does that actually live? Local. Oh, there it is. I see it. It's in a NeuroGrid.
I think I may have to shut down Chrome
right.
and rejoin you in a minute.
Okay.
Let me kill it. Okay.
So Heroku, as of June, changed their policy that the free dinos
Uh-huh.
are per account, not per app.
Okay. Yes, there was clearly some set of changes in June that.
So what they did was if you're unverified, you get 550 free hours per app per account. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and if you are verified with a credit card,
Uh-huh.
you get 1,000 free hours of dinos per month.
Right. Uh-huh.
So if you give them your credit card, you can basically run an app all the time for free.
Right.
But I think before it was like you could run it 18 hours a day.
Mm.
Then before that, it would go to sleep every so often.
Mm-hmm.
And then people were like creating apps to ping their apps,
Yeah, yeah.
so they were never asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly, Heroku's adjusting the free tier
Indeed they are.
to try and get people to pay money.
Yeah. I mean, see, we have no workers, but we do have the Heroku scheduler. And so, yeah, so we've actually got two tasks, one of which is doing this, updating the GitHub commits, and the other one is doing this geocode all operation.
Right.
Utils, here we go. Yeah, which is saving all of the users. So there's a side effect that the karma is updated by that. Okay. So, and have I lost all of my, have I lost all of my terminal tabs? Okay. The thing there, but basically, I have this, I have like a big display, and it gives me like an alternate little dongle to plug into my computer power source, and it has this that's the old style, and it came with this adapter to adjust the adapter thing, and it just has the effect that sometimes when I plug it all in, it doesn't quite seem to charge, and I think the computer just completely ran out of power. So,
Where did website one production go? I guess that's back. Go on.
you got your beep there then, so you can hold down and press that to stop it beeping again.
Where did web? Oh, there it is. It's under NeuroGrid.
It's under NeuroGrid, which is, yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway,
oh, you got it. So has that always been under NeuroGrid? I guess.
Yeah.
The production unit's always been under NeuroGrid. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're basically getting that for free.
Well, no, we're paying for that, but I've explicitly got that on a higher tier in order to increase the performance, and I'm also paying for database in order to have a larger database.
I'm looking at the wrong one then. Oh, there's an IRCN Production US. Oh, that's oh, never mind. That's local support.
Yeah.
What is Production US?
That's when we very, very first started. It was in their US data center, and for local support, we moved it to their Europe data centers.
And that's just still running.
Yeah, and not incurring any charges. I mean, they could be. It obviously could be shut down. They're completely surplus to requirement. Except the fact that what's odd is, this is the biggest oddest thing, is that Agile Ventures, I get monthly billing statements for the NeuroGrid, and 8-9 months ago, I explicitly, we made the step to like pay for those, and I get those, and I see that, and that has all maintained and been normal over the last 8 or 9 months. 3 months ago, the Agile Ventures thing suddenly started incurring charges. I didn't get any emails about it, and didn't realize it until we kind of looked at it the other day. And I'm not sure what the difference in the two is. Both of them are, both of them are associated with my credit card. Both of them are, group organizations on Heroku, maybe it's that it's something to do with the type of legacy apps we have in NeuroGrid Limited versus the ones that are in Agile Ventures, or the number of users associated with each. But so what the Heroku management team have now showed me is that they're going to be looking into it, exactly what happened, and they're going to give me a report on Tuesday, is what they said. But anyway.
But they're probably not going to give you your money back.
Well, that's what they'll tell me in the report. So we have that saving operation. So in principle, if the karma calculator, so if we could write the karma calculator to have this little method that we worked out the other day, and the way we're kind of moving towards this is to try to make user transparent, that we can set karma elements on user, and they'll just go under the hood, they'll go into this karma object. I mean, that's an interesting sort of question about whether, I guess the karma calculator, what it could be doing is it could be, instead of manipulating the user object, it could be creating the karma object directly and then setting things on the karma. I guess that's all implementation details. The karma calculator, if we think of it from a test perspective, I guess actually from the point of view of the karma calculator, we've got all these things hidden as private methods. If we add that method in here, it doesn't change the public interface of the karma calculator.
Right.
And so presumably, what does the karma calculator test do at the moment? We've got models, services, karma calculator spec, and it's got a kind of a limited spec at the moment. So I guess if we were to test drive it, we could describe 4 members attending Hangouts.
Yep. Let me actually mute this thing.
Cool. We should say it gives points for Hangout participation to end. So we've got a user here. The Factory Girl has built the user. And so we've set up now the Factory Girl user, which is not that. Factories, user RB. It will create just like a default karma thing there to
I think I fixed it. Go on.
Cool. It's got like a default karma in the background. Let me close the other ones. And okay. So
says you adjusted my audio level.
Yeah, I'm getting you very loud today. Well, I think after I rebooted, like all my levels got reset.
Oh.
So karma calculator there. The karma calculator spec. Okay. That might use that way around. Right. Yeah, and so what we've got is effectively we're testing the karma calculator, and in terms of the effect that it has on the user, rather than on the karma thing. And I wonder if this is an opportunity to sort of say this stuff that the karma calculator is doing should be on the karma model. I'm not going to leap into doing that.
We're building a user.
I mean, the integration test for the karma calculator involves, for this thing that we're proposing doing, involves collaborating with the event instances and basically looking through the JSON stuff stuck in the event instances.
In some ways, it's not really testing what it does to the user, right?
Well, no, I mean this test is very minimal. I mean, that's how we found it. It creates a user. It checks that, you know, the default case that if the user does not exist, then their karma points will be 0, and then it checks that, you know, that running the karma calculator on a user where they were created at some time will have a non-zero have some positive number of karma points. So it's a very minimal test. I mean, it you know, it runs the code, so it stops it kind of breaking or checking that it's not throwing an error. But
so my question is, you're suggesting that it should test what happens to karma model? I mean, that's
no. I was the things I was saying were, one, should these operations, rather than being in a calculator, should they be, you know, on the model?
Right. Well,
but that and I kind of like, but I don't want to. That's maybe like from a drive-by point of view. Okay, that's one thing. Put it aside. I'm then now just trying to work out what's the, you know, there are so many different ways to fake this stuff out here. It's like, what's the sensible thing to test is my question in the forefront of my mind.
Right. So we should somehow set up a thing where, so we have a, so in some ways we need to expose basically I mean, if you go to the views and you look at what the users have, right?
You mean like
detail? Go on.
You mean if we look here?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Number hangouts started with more than one participant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can test that the calculator actually puts that regardless of whether it's however it's being done, that after the calculator runs, that when you call that method on the user for which the calculator has been performed on,
right,
then it has the, you know, sensible result.
Right. So in that context here, that would be saying
kind of what we care about for this feature, right?
Right. In the current context. So that would be saying
expect that to be something like, I don't know.
I guess in.
So we need to actually set up. So expect that to be 1. So let's just to equal or be, I don't know, to equal 1.
Yeah.
And then that'll fail. because it'll. I wonder what will actually happen there.
Well, presumably it will be 0.
Zero, because it's probably hard coded, right?
I think you set the default to be 0. No, what's happened here? Okay, Postgres got to be started. Start my reboot. What's your? Yeah, there we go. Right.
So I noticed that local supports production is on legacy dynos.
Right. And that may be why we're not paying for it.
But I wonder how that works. I thought legacy dynos shut down.
Mm.
Because it seems now like local support is actually always responsive.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we've fallen through the cracks.
Oh, see that's
so, and I guess here in this, there's a context here where we kind of want factory to build an event instance.
Oh, I know why.
Why?
Because a legacy dyno is one that's so old that they grandfathered. To where you get 750 free dynos per app. Which is enough to run it for the entire month.
So it just means we're just old.
But yeah. At some point they may say that you have to pay them money.
They may. So I'm just gonna in this context, like rather than getting into how we make the event instance have the correct element for the G+, I'm just gonna pop in here that we do build an event instance, and then I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna add a method in here for oh, have I done it with the wrong? I've done it with the wrong. I think I noticed that we've got a problem. There's actually, so the view, we've got an error in the view that we haven't detected because the numbers between the two things are a bit too similar. Do you know what I mean?
Not really, but
well, I can expose it more directly later on.
Okay.
But I guess I can hard code how this should work by, for example, having this set that to 1 there. At the point of which it will save it. And if I then modify that so that's called a part of performing the operation, in principle that could pass. But it didn't.
Can you go back to what you did? Because I didn't. Right, but why? Oh, users that Hangouts attended with more than one participant. Right, so you would expect that. Oh, that's gonna set that, and then it's gonna get saved.
But I think the reason why it might not be is we've got karma points on as a let, and we're not
referencing it.
We're not referencing it in here, so subject perform is actually not called there. I wonder. I mean, this has dried this out of here. I think I can fix that with let bang there.
I don't know about the order of how it's going to run.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I was just looking at as I did it to think: is there something? Is it? But you know, basically, it's the subject. The subject should be created first. The let bang refers to user, so that will cause the user to be created as well. Okay, no, it has screwed it up. Something else has failed. Okay, so that's not the simpler thing there. Is just to refer to comma points here, whatever that order issue was. I'm surprised that would cause it. I mean, the one that failed was this one, coming in here to do user created at 31 days ago. I guess it's probably because that causes this to this causes this to run before the 31 days ago is set. Yeah, it's interesting here. We've got this. There's different, like this one is adjusting the type of user by using another factory girl operation, whereas this one is doing it here. Potentially my bang operation would have worked if this was here and was setting the 31 days ago. But anyway, okay, so now even with having called comma points here, which should cause this to operate. I wonder if that's because the user doesn't get saved. Oh, were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, that's interesting. So that seems to imply that we're not. I thought just referencing comma points there would cause subject perform to come in here. It's all saved, isn't it? To come in here, and that would go in there, and then we would hit there. We have a return statement here that returns if the user is created at is blank. Okay. Let's just pop that in there. Right.
So where were you getting your user from?
So I missed a part of that. You said, where are we getting the user from?
Yeah.
Well, the user, we've got the factory girl is creating the user. Okay.
And it's blank?
It seems to, it would certainly appear that way. It would appear that, we find our factories, users. One might have thought that the created at would be something as a consequence, but it looks like it isn't, which is interesting. But so in this case, where we've actually set the created at value, we now hit this point, and maybe actually would that now pass? It does pass, right?
So maybe we should. I'm not going to go down that path. I'm just wondering if that's really serving any value, that statement. But go on.
This statement here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What I was going to do to dry this out a bit, now that we have context here. For existing members.
We didn't write this spec, right?
No.
We inherited this.
Oh yes. I'm thinking that potentially this could now work with the let bang. And I'm interested to see if it does or not. I might be completely wrong. And it does. Yes. It's nice to occasionally have one's hypothesis confirmed. So in principle, then, there's nothing stopping us from, good job I blogged about it this morning before I lost all of the background. I quickly go to my blog on subject. I have the operation. So, oh yeah, then we were like, how do we work out, so user authentications select, I wrote this yesterday, I think we lost the code now, where I wish it wouldn't do that.
Oh.
So this is obviously ridiculously smelly code.
Go on.
But I think that I would sort of expect that to see that fail now. I'm just going to tease this apart. So we've got, this is, has that got the right end for me? Okay. Yes, and so that's now failed, but potentially for all sorts of wrong reasons. I mean, I guess I'm being quite, I guess if I was really doing test driven, then I would be teasing all of this, you know, out independently.
Right.
But I know I've got this issue of what's the mechanism for constructing, I guess we've kind of got there, this is all return unless G plus ID. There's lots of stuff to pull out there, but this is kind of like our spike. I'm interested in knowing how we can have this spike, which we know works approximately, respond to the right kind of event instance. And so then we have an event instance factory. And what we want to make happen is we want to have the participants array in there include some people, which I think it does automatically. It creates a broadcaster and a participant.
So what you could do is you could have it generate a broadcaster.
Well, I feel like what we
Go on.
what we want to be able to do is pass in I want to do something like this, where I say, you know, participant G plus ID, let's say, and then I say here this is like that. And now in the standard things, this will kind of not work because participant G plus ID is not a method call on the event instance.
Right.
But I wonder, can I just like, can I parameterize this thing so I can pass stuff in otherwise that's just going to be, and then add that here into the participant, like I think where we want it to be. And we've got this ID, like I think it's out in the blog post. So the person has an ID. So we are setting, and they're calling it here YouTube ID N. Oh, wait a sec. Okay. So what is this participant? It does N. I think it's going to end up, the person's ID coming in there is going to be like YouTube underscore ID 0 or something, or YouTube underscore ID 1 automatically, isn't it?
Yes.
So in principle, how would that?
You just pass it in.
Well, I'm just thinking that what we would need to do here is we would need to set the, like what in order for that whole thing to work, we would need to set this user so that they have an authentication that would have a G+ provider which had this YouTube ID, right?
Yes.
And so factories, the users, at the moment, we've got it such that it creates the user, this user that we've created here is automatically going to have I think it's going to have a G+ provider, and and the ID that's passed in is going to be this G+ ID, which is coming in as a transient. Right, that's this evaluator hooks up. I was reading about evaluators, and they seem to be entirely about that. Well, sorry, about referring to transient variables. Not 100% sure why we need transient variables, but
what are transient variables?
Well, I read the description of them.
A way to pass in.
Battery go.
Is that a way to pass in arguments?
It's not.
Oh no.
That's the funny thing, is that you can define these transient attributes.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to be like you can set it, because I guess it's actually for drawing out, like you might have multiple information that's like within a given factory, we might have multiple different types of users that we're creating, or types of entity that we're creating, and you want to kind of like pull some data out from those set of things and then use it across them. So nothing gets passed in. It's sort of pulling variables up to the top of the factory.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it particularly helps us here. I mean, it's helpful to understand, okay, where is the, like, this is what we want is, in order to create an event instance that's going to register with indicating that a person attended a hangout.
Right, but let's like, where does that G+ ID come from?
This one?
Yeah.
That comes from here. It's defined here as this.
Right, but where does it get that from?
This is just, it's defined here. This is just setting up a variable that says later on in this block, when we refer to evaluator.g+.
Right, but where is that variable ultimately coming from?
This string.
That's just it. That's all it's being set as, is G+ ID.
Yeah, exactly. That I mean, well, I guess that the interesting thing to do here is if we look at.
That's literally it. It's just being set as G+ ID.
Yeah, I believe so. And we could confirm that if I pop ibug in here and we run, what's this going to be now? 26. Then I based on that logic. Oh, RSpec, you should happen instantly. Should be looking at God. So here, so if we look at the user authentications. Not any. That's weird. don't have any. Have we not yet referred to user at that point? We have not. So I have to, can I refer to user? Let's, oh.
So basically, you can define it within the factory, an additional variable, but you can't pass it
in. I think we might be able to pass it in, but we can't pass it in through that mechanism.
No, I mean, what that does is it lets you define it.
Yeah, right.
Additional thing that's not set on an attribute.
Mm-hmm.
That's not being passed in as an attribute.
Yes.
So you could have multiple factories.
Mm-hmm. Whether we're all using like that thing. I think that my question is.
No, I mean you could have like a factory that says like G plus user, right?
Yeah, that's true. I could have one and I could set the ID to be what I wanted it to be.
Right. So and then exploring that further,
mm-hmm.
You could have an event instance
that had a particular version
with that ID. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I could in principle
can you share those values across multiple factors. You probably can't, right?
I mean, just as an experiment, I could come in here. I could set that. I mean, I'm still want to. This is before I changed it. So if we now do user.authentications, it doesn't have any. That's very strange.
Right. So anyway, continuing down the path that I was thinking of.
Yes.
We could have a factory called G plus user.
Uh-huh.
That's nestled inside factory user, right?
We certainly could.
And the only difference would be that its transient would be G plus, it would be some G plus ID, right?
Sure.
And then we could go in.
Yeah, and we can make another event. Your logic is flawless. However, I don't think it's going to help us unless the user actually creates an authentication associated with it. And I'm not seeing it do that at the moment.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah. So, I mean, here we've got this set up so that it should create this authentication. But I'm in here, I'm calling the user. The user is presumably has been built. I mean, I can create a new one, I guess, on the fly. There's something else weird going on there. So it's got various things in there, like the password should be, well, I don't see the password, but thing in here. These all dynamic. I mean, it's creating faker first name, last name. First name, yeah. So it's doing that. And I assume with this, I guess, is it maybe the case that this factory girl is creating this thing and it's existing in an the user ID is nil. So until maybe it's okay. Even then, but then no.
So after creation, are you doing create or build?
Well, I'm doing build.
Do create.
Yeah.
Because it's an actually after create hook.
Right.
Hopefully that fixes it.
It does not appear to.
That's nasty.
I mean, yeah, I'd purely been operating here on the assumption that this did work. I sort of presumed that because we had that in there, or because someone had put that in there, that was the correct. Maybe there's something about the way this is written that is not making it's creating an authentication.
What is it? Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense that it should be after create, that it would set. I mean, I guess that I could ask the question here, do I have any authentications? And the answer is yes. And it has the properties that I would expect. But for some reason, there's two of them. And they're linked up to user ID 1 and user 2. And if I say user ID, that's user ID 1, I would have thought if I said user authentications, oh, is it? Okay. So it's just that apparently the first can't be used. Oh, for the love of Christ. How am I supposed to refer to this first element of this collection proxy? I have to like call next or something. What?
So when you call count on it,
it
returns 1.
Yes.
It's returning an empty collection proxy.
Yes.
I've seen this before in Rails.
Trying
to remember what that actually means.
It's going to look. So we've got.
So if you do the count thing, but do toSQL at the end, what does it say? What is the actual SQL query it's running?
That's not a method that I'm allowed to call.
Oh, really? How about toSQL?
That's sort of what we'd expect. I mean, it's clearly. I mean, the implication here is that we do have an authentication with a user ID of foreign key related to 1 there. So in principle, that should work, and yet it doesn't. So we've got collection proxy. I mean, well, that's a separate issue there. Rails collection. Let's see.
Oh, the @target object is not loaded until needed. But I thought printing it on the line would make it needed. So
me too.
So what if you do authentication .first?
Yep, finds that. All good. This is really irritating.
So there is a first method on collection proxy. There should be.
Yeah, and absolutely. It's just in this case, it happens to be
nothing.
Yeah, and it's kind of strange because the user ID there is 1.
Right.
So I would have thought that if we did. Maybe there's something really obvious we're overlooking. I mean, I was thinking there, is it like the one has been set to be a string somewhere, and it's a I mean, we're in the factory girl here. It's being used that .id. You would have thought that that should be fine. It seems like this is being triggered to the extent that we do see an authentication there that has the appropriate relationship. User is set up to have many authentications.
Can you commit this and push it?
Sure. I was just going to take out. Do I have a bybug in there? I do. I mean, maybe it may be the fact that that doesn't work there may not actually matter. If we can get other aspects of it to work. I mean, that may just be some weirdness of the state that factory girl is in. Because if the I have no event instances. That's weird. Huh. Why is it not building an event instance? Do you want to share your screen if you're poking around with it?
I'm not really doing anything exciting.
Okay. Okay. Right. So that's a. Build there. Okay, so we have an event instance. Oh, okay. Now, interesting. How the event instance, yes, the ID is being set there to YouTube ID 1. Okay. Go away. So I'm just going with a simpler. So you were talking about past, taking sub users. I've just gone for setting the G+ ID in this existing user to the thing that we set in the event instance.
And
it doesn't pass, and I'm just coming in here to see what in the actual code what it thinks that. So yeah, here when this is in this code, we've got the user. Okay, at that point, that's weird. Okay, so we've got something here that the user that's being created we pass it in, like we create the karma calculator new for user there. And that builds a user here.
Yeah.
Now, I would have thought that it would then refer to, like, if we're running in this context,
that this user would be the one
override it. But it looks to me there like it's not. Like the user ID is still nil when we're at this point in the code. Which implies, I mean, like that this maybe has a stale, it has a stale object, or I mean,
well, that old by bug statement you had, the user ID was 1.
Yeah, here at this point.
Yeah.
But this may be referring to this user, which may be a different user from what is actually being passed into the karma calculator.
Right. But we're still getting that weirdness with the authentications.
Yes.
Which is probably actually the underlying issue.
Maybe. We're calling karma points on user here before it's been saved. Okay, so I think right. I think I see the problem. I think I see the problem. The problem is that we've got this set up so that, at least with my let bang, but so the karma points is called before the user is saved, and so because this is only created after the creations, I think, well, that would explain why that wouldn't work in the karma calculator. I am deeply tempted to, at this point, remove this user from here because I don't think it's buying us anything, and place all of these things in their own separate elements so that we can be clear about what's happening.
Right.
And so in here, it's called, the other interesting thing here is, what I'm noticing there is that this is called twice. Right. Okay.
User ID is still nil, huh?
Still nil. It is now only being called. What? Don't do that. Why is that now suddenly? I can't. Okay. No trackpad. Okay. That's weird. User, we have a reader for user. User is passed in. I feel like okay. That's really strange. So we're doing, the user is being created here by Factory Girl.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought that would save it as database and give it an ID. We then, what is it getting the subject? Okay. It's also now here. That's making it look like it is actually getting down into here. Yeah. I mean, there's other thing that it may not be constructing. So if we, at this point, there is no user. Why is there no user at that point? I've said let user. Weird.
It just popped out, no method error. Undefined method values for an array.
Yeah, and it's the same, that's the same error that we've got here from Karma Calculator on line 42, which is, you know, is in here. It's
So,
like,
yeah, hold on. Go back
to here.
Yeah, type user again. Is it gonna spit the same error out?
Yep.
So that implies that referencing user is triggering the Karma Calculator. I think because it's an after save hook, right?
Right. I guess because what it's trying to do here is the user is trying to, we've got this weird thing, haven't we, where we're talking about running the Karma Calculator. Oh God. Running the Karma Calculator, which hits this thing, but then there's also, it gets hit initially as a function of creating it, whereas the other ones we're just doing build, and so it wouldn't hit the switch, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
We're also doing build with event instance, so
Doing build with a what instance?
yeah, we're doing build with event instance and not, or you were, I don't know what you're doing now. Anyway.
Yeah. The previous ones had build. We are in create. But anyway, the fact that well, the funny thing there is that it should go through this bybug statement before it can even hit there.
Is there actually a stack? There's no stack trace, right?
Well, there's a stack trace for when.
Yeah, but we don't know whether that's really the same thing.
Not for certain. It's almost like the bybug one for the Factory Girl. Yeah, but so the interesting thing there is, even though that user that I'm referring to seems like it has an ID nil. Okay, so the G+ ID that's returning is the that's going. Okay, well that's ridiculous. But that's. But in fact, this is the G+ authentication, and what we should be checking for is G+ authentication. We've selected the things first. and we're asking about what the we've asked for the provider that's that, and we want to know what the ID is. Yeah, and I think if we're ever going to get to the bottom of this, we've got to take the validation off momentarily because it's confusing things. I think it's going to be time for a break very soon, and clearly I've been driving for too long. And oh god. So, okay. Right. That's now doing what I expect. Okay.
So if you put the validation back on.
Give me a moment. Oops. That's going to totally break there. That should be. Okay. Before I do, let me just run this.
See that it's working?
Well, okay.
Well, it's not.
So this is the thing that we had before. So we can ask here about, so the event instance, we only have a single one. So we can ask about the first one. What are your participants? Okay, so I think the structure of participants that's being returned in our factory is different from what we get back from the, you know, in the real system.
Right.
Where does it even mean? So event instance is here. So participants here. So if we look at the, so when it comes back, a real one comes back off the system, it consists of a, what is this? This is like a hash with numbers going up. And we're setting it here to be an array. In fact, it should be this. At the top level, it's still putting it into an array. There's no array here. And that's not. Oh, so that's going to be. And let's see, that's funny. What is that? Yeah, that doesn't. It's going to generate like what it should be generating here. We've actually got to, instead of these two things, we've got to merge them rather than putting them in an array. Maybe. Oh, what a pain. Okay. Well, the values we get out of there. Okay. So this count then, now the count is not working. The participant values it's only showing up as one person. But we're only getting okay, so the participants there, that's not quite worked in the way that I wanted. See, we've basically got two hashes there. Ruby, merge two hashes. Not the. Yeah, if we merge one into the other, we take right.
So,
On.
you've just kind of been hacking and like, what is the actual problem right now? I mean,
Well, the problem I determined is that the structure of the.
yeah, I know.
You know that thing.
The thing in the test is not the real one. But what's
Right.
the?
So I've then modified that so that it's almost there, but the only thing that we are now missing it. Like I had attempted here to take the two elements, the participant and the broadcaster, and turn them into one joint hash that mirrored what we see as the structure of the JSON when we look in the real database. So it has like keys 0 and 1.
But it doesn't have that in yours, right?
Not yet, although I had thought.
What does yours have? What does yours actually have?
Right at the moment,
yes,
it now does have a hash with a key going to the thing, but it doesn't have the other one. But so what I'd done here is I thought that I was, given that we've set up one, this is one key value pair, and this is another one. I thought that merging them like this would create, a thing with two. If you take two hashes,
but hold on,
different keys and you merge them, gone.
I don't think you have different keys. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, entirely possibly. I mean, I'm not sure how this N is working.
Yeah, I think. Can you actually get in there? I guess you can't declare a buy bug in the middle of that factory girl. That's a whole different story.
I wonder if we could, but I mean, this has got a.
I think what's going on.
Oh, they're probably both both one, aren't they?
Yes.
So the whole sequence thing here is
whatever.
Sam, I have to run.
Oh, no worries. Hey, thanks very much. You can read about it in my blog tomorrow.
I will. Thanks. Ciao.
Take care. There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Now we have an undefined.
Yeah, so there it's been trying to look through. We've got this list of participants. And then we're looking at participants' values. The values, if we then take the first of that, should be able to refer to person. I think the problem there is
String and not a
string and symbols.
Yeah.
And if we look in here, yeah, so they're not symbols. So that's another thing here, that person needs to be a string, as does the ID. And that's actually the wrong one for our purposes. And that ID needs to have a.
What about display name and all that? Are those like none of them?
They'll also need to be changed, partly because we've been going at this for a while. I'm tempted to make the minor change there on the forlorn hope that that might be the last change before a fix is achieved. Yes, and that's going green. Oh God. Okay. Okay. Well,
Clearly a lot of things that can go wrong with the testing of this and with actually doing it in production.
indeed. Well, I'm tempted to say I think that the problem, I mean, the problem here in some ways was.
Did you re-enable the oh, you haven't re-enabled the after?
No, I haven't yet. I was just going to check that the other tests still work. I mean, I think part of the problem there is that it has to defend against. Is that now different? 26? No, 26 it is running all of them. I mean, part of the problem is working with an existing test. Oh no, it has to return a number, doesn't it? There. We're working with an existing test that had
Assumptions
yeah, it had
that were either never right or no longer correct, or
yeah, I mean, yeah, the biggest problem was that this structure was wrong.
yeah.
We then also had this other aspect of the I mean, yeah, we could the interesting question there is, of course, if we switch the validation back on, does everything suddenly fail? I mean, I think from the failure that we were getting before, which was actually related to the thing, it may not matter, although it does, because
So go back to the test. Just please let me actually look at it for a little while. Don't just flick back and forth. Calculator. So when the user is first created,
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell is the event instance? So before we're creating an event instance, so that.
Well, rather than you reading it on my screen, why don't I commit that there, and you can have a look at that on your screen, and I'll go and make a cup of tea, and then we can continue looking at it together in a few minutes.
Right.
Back in a moment.
Expected 1 got 0.
How's it going? I think you're muted if you're talking.
What I've determined is that basically what's happening is by switching on that
After save hook.
after save hook,
Mm-hmm.
we come in, we still perform the thing twice.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the first time, what happens is, if we can go through it, is the user created out as blank, so it just sets karma points to be 0
Mm-hmm.
and never calls, like it never gets deeper into the method.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time,
Mm-hmm.
it is created out, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it will get deeper into the method. What the?
Mm-hmm.
But what actually happens is that I lost my train of thought. What were you?
Well, I think that what you might have been able to say was the user doesn't get saved the second time around.
I think that might be it.
And so it's not updated.
Well, also there's something weird about the user second time around. The user.id is nil still.
Hmm.
See, it's nil,
Mm-hmm.
which infers that it's not saved.
Right.
So what happens is after validation is called, even if validations are failing, is what people are saying.
Right. After validation, yeah, it's called even if the validation is failing.
Which would stop it from being saved. So that might be happening. I'm not sure why that would be happening though.
I guess with that nil user, can you do like user.errors? Is it saying that?
Listening.
Right, details, yeah. Is there like like, I'm just...
User.valid true.
Hmm. I mean, I was just throwing in a user save to see if the theory was borne out. And that hasn't made the test pass for me.
No, I don't know. It's
Weird.
always feels like wait. So the first time I run the test,
Mm-hmm.
and I get inside here. And I do create it at no. Shouldn't it be 31 days ago?
Yeah, I would have thought so. I mean, we've got an issue there that the probably the lines 16, 17, and 18 should be inside the following block to avoid any like there's an extent to which
this describe here, it should be in here.
I think so, just for safety, because otherwise it's kind of I had, when I was working with it before, I had commented all of that out to make sure that there wasn't any interference.
The create add is nil, which is just
Bizarre.
bizarre. It's totally bizarre. So I'm just tempted to like comment all this shit out.
Mm-hmm. You need to lose an end, yeah, and because it was inside the nested inside the context.
Okay, so why is it doing that?
And that's the first time it's going in there. I mean, is the created at, where's the should be nil?
So now in the second time it's okay. All right. And you're saying that adding this user dot saved and or
That didn't seem to make any difference to me. For me,
like subject dot saved. Oh, there is no subject.
there's no save. No, it's the user. I mean, there's this kind of funny thing where we're creating the user. I mean, like on line 37.
Mm-hmm.
I would leave that bug in there. I mean, if I was going to attack the code that the bit that you're looking at there now.
Still failing. Go on.
I would put on line 37. I would put that bug back in. I guess the first time that we end up going in is yeah. So if at that point, so I would expect us there to hit that bug breakpoint on line 37 first, but it doesn't. It hits the. I mean, that in itself is strange to me, because like we've got let user, that factory girl create.user created at 31 days ago shouldn't be being called until line 38, where we refer to user for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess what would be nice would be to see the stack trace of like that point in the code that you're in now. Where is that coming from? Can we see Ruby method call stack? Sarah, get current stack trace in Ruby without raising an exception. Or you can use kernel cooler. It's obviously a bit difficult to look at.
There are like some way to do this. Join.
I think that might have worked, but what will happen there on ByBug is that it's like it's going to give you the string thing. You could try using AP. There's like I've struggled with this so often in these environments of like, just show me the indented list. You might want to try it without doing the join from the AP. IRB.
Oh, there it is. That worked.
Oh yeah, AP without the join. Cool.
Yes.
So, oh, interesting. So that's being called from it's user 35. So that's
iBug, which all makes sense because we hit that. Then we hit active record, active support callbacks. So it's running a callback.
So I assume that's the after save thing, right?
After validation, yeah.
So the fact that we're seeing factory girl above that
means that factory girl is triggering it.
Right. And if we then look, you got their line 30, Karma calculator spec RB30. Does that correspond to the?
Yes.
That corresponds
to that instance.
Oh, it's when we're creating the event instance. Okay. So the event instance is creating some users as well. Oh God. What tangled webs we weave. So the event instance is in turn creating a user.
Where?
Line 23 in event instance.
It's creating a user to which the event instance belongs.
Yeah, so that who's going to be the initiator of the event instance.
Right. So actually, we don't really care whether that's a nil or not per se. In that.
No. I mean, that could be somebody else. We don't care. I mean, so for example, on that line 30, then you could just do comma user colon nil, and maybe that would override it.
What are you saying here?
In the Karma calculator spec.
Yeah.
On line 30.
Let me get out of this because So you're saying on the Karma calculator spec 30.
Yeah, like can we pass like there, like comma user colon nil, and that would avoid creating that user for us?
Maybe, probably.
So that now hits the ByBug there at the point I would expect, because so we've come in, no users have been created yet. At this point, if you create a user, presumably it will be the user. You could try just typing user there.
It'll
create it, but so it'll have an ID and it should have a created at date.
Indeed.
So then you've continued and you've got to that point inside the perform, which is the perform called presumably on line 39 on the previous thing. So user there should be the same user. You could just...
We're coming back twice now.
So they're coming in twice there because once I would assume that we were coming in because we created the user and we've got the after save operation happening on line 33 of calculator spec. And then we
go on.
Then we explicitly call perform again on the Karma calculator.
Right. But for some reason, there's no authentications either. Or the root to the problem. What am I going to do? See, there's no authentication.
Sure, yeah.
And there's no authentication set up in the record either at that point. But here there's one set up.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's coming back empty.
Yes, well, that was back to the original. I guess if you do first there, it's nothing. Yeah, it's not, for some reason. It's the association is not being made there. Although it seems that it is being made if we remove that after save hook.
After validation, yeah.
Is it? It's specifically an after validation.
So yeah, saying after a save, but I believe it's after validation.
Yeah, it is after validation. Do you want to just remove that after validation step and check that the tests pass? And we removed one additional dependency here, which is that the event instance was creating a user as well. I mean, I think that the
does pass.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see us. I mean, there's like, we've got this. We could keep trying to dig and try and work out why this after validation. I guess you know, or we could ask the question, you know, actually, is that a sensible place? Is it a sensible thing to have? I think that there's a general smell associated with having these kind of hooks, because you're, you know, that they're like side effects that you're not sure when they're going to take place. And it feels to me like the problem may be that if this is after validation, I think you were looking at already the sequence that these things happen. Validations happen before creation. So what we're doing here is with the after validation, the reason I think why we can't find the authentications and so on is because, at least in the first instance, because the after validation hook is running the Karma calculator on a user that hasn't yet run the after create thing that's in the factory.
Right. But then the second time around,
yeah, it should still work, and I don't know why it doesn't.
Yeah, so that's mysterious why it's not working the second time around.
Yeah. You would have thought that. So if we have that and it comes from the factory girl on the first time around and it kind of doesn't work out, fair enough. We then create a new Karma calculator based upon the user in its should be fully created state with the authentications. We then run perform. It should, in principle, update the user, and then. But that's what I mean. It's kind of like that is weird, but so and we can keep on investigating that. But we could say having the karma calculator operate as an after validation hook doesn't make sense.
Right.
And we would reduce the complexity of the user model by removing it.
Okay, if we do that, I mean, do we need this save? I guess we don't, right?
Well, potentially not.
We probably don't because everything's inline. It's all like in memory.
Yeah, I mean the karma calculator is operating on the user
in memory.
And we still have a reference to that object. So the update that it's made is, it's just kind of is.
Wait, let me comment out those things. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. How's the spec doing now?
I think that won't work unless you uncomment out the final end.
I don't care about you anymore. Where's bug? Goodbye. I guess then the question is, do any of our other tests depend on that too? Do they need updating? So I'll run specs.
Yeah. Well, and there's also, we've made changes independently about the validation. There's changes to the factories, which may have a knock-on impact on other tests. I mean, I think that we. There's three. I think there's
3 failures.
And we've also got the aspect here of removing the after validation.
5 failures. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So we just got a failure in the karma calculator running in batch. That's really bad.
Okay. Well, actually, that's very interesting. Because the other failures are showing us some other tests where they're using a different mechanism to create a user that has the correct G+ value.
Yes.
And I notice that they are both referring, they're all referring to the code. You know, we changed those things from symbols to strings because that's the correct way we get them. So it is disturbing that that our main test is failing. We could possibly, one way forward here is to just update those other tests that are failing. And we could, because sometimes there may be interaction effects there. So it's possible if we fix those other tests that the strange dependency might go away.
So 35.
Yeah, on end of line 36.
Undefined method for no class. So it's getting back on no class.
Yeah, and that's because on line 36 at the end, it's got like the person, and we've changed the person to be a string instead of a symbol. And then it tries to reference the ID on that.
Just be an ID.
Yeah, and same on line 43. Yeah, you got it.
All right, so.
Yeah, so say maybe just run that one to see if that has fixed that.
What? Did we just get a totally new error?
That's a totally new error. So I think, you know, now that it's been able to set the G+ ID correctly, it's going in and it's trying to count the number of participants, and that doesn't work because we've switched it from being an array to a hash. So to fix that test, you could just add the word values. So yeah, line 38, instead of counting the bit, it needs to count the values in that.
Like that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's getting back in array, it's saying.
Okay, so then it must think that the participants at that point. Oh, it's doing presenter participants. Sorry, not hangout participants. I don't even know what that presenter is. I think we would have to go and look at what like this is for the event instance presenter.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got presenters, events instance presenter. Okay, so it's calling map to users on event instance participants. And map to users walks through the participants and is also operating on symbols instead of strings. So that's why I think it can't find the people. But the fact that we've got that this is now in the app code rather than the test makes me want to double check. Is that really the structure of the system when it comes out of the database, because
that might be.
I mean, this may reflect an error on our part, or it might be that that presenter thing has never been working because it's always been, I mean, it's been correct for the tests, but it's not been correct for the live system. If we look at the page that you were just on, it shows that I think it's got a rescue clause, and it kind of logs the error if it has like no method, and then kind of ignores it. I mean, I don't even know if that code is in use in production. But I was just going to go and look at the event instance that we're in and the participants hash that comes back. And it definitely has person strings in it. So that would imply that that presenter there with its on line 63 line 63 there where it has the colon person, that should be a string.
Right, but what I'm looking at is
Oh, where does that get called from?
Yeah, get called in participants.
Right, and that's the thing that this test is. But yeah, and I think that that is but yeah, the question is then, is the event instance presenter actually used in the site? So I can command click on event instance presenter and do find usages, and it tells me that it's only used in the tests.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is never used anywhere else?
I can, no, it's only used, there's the test, and that's it, as far as I can see, at least according to RubyMine.
So what we can happily do is delete all these files.
We could, so that's certainly an option. I mean, that may be something that was intended to be used.
Delete that.
I think that the I'd delete the test if you want. Yeah.
Goodbye.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of presenters.
Well, I'm a fan of deleting unused code.
Me too. But I think
there is this version control that you could get it back.
Sure. I think if you scroll up though in there, like it'll take a while for that whole thing to run. We could move a little bit faster if you scroll up, because we've still got those things that were failing in the view.
Right. There's a bunch failing in the view now, a whole lot. That implies that.
That may imply that this search that I did in RubyMine is incorrect, in that it may be that it's what?
We'll have to see.
I wonder, there may have been dynamic usage of it. Yeah, I mean, even finding the word event instance presenter in the entire code base only shows it in the case that it's in and in the test. But I guess if it was used dynamically, like, you know, it said like load presenter for event instance. Yeah, so it is being used. But it's, yeah, look, you see that you can see constantine is new. So it's being used, but there's no direct reference to it. It's being, the class name is being constructed dynamically on the fly.
Yes.
So we probably need them back.
What's wrong with that? Get checkout app.
Presenters. event underscore instance underscore presenter dot RB. That's strange. I mean, you could just do check out. You could just check out that directory instead of the individual file, like app presenters.
Oh, well, I screwed up. Just nuked a bunch of changes.
Hmm.
It didn't fix it anyway.
So it's got changes to be committed. I guess maybe.
I don't know. Do you want to drive at this point?
Sure.
Did we really do anything? I don't think we did anything.
Yeah, I guess so. Where we are. So if I go to the Karma calculator here, what do I have, if anything? So what you had just done is remove that validation point. Let me run. Let me just run the Karma calculator spec by itself. By itself, that passes.
Mm-hmm.
So you had identified that in the, we've got spec, are there presenter specs? Presumably there are, yes. So if we run spec presenters event, and so this one, what was, and presumably you had a view spec that was failing as well, is presumably the, do we have an event instances view spec? So this one is failing there. So the way that we fixed that in the presenter, like so, was like so. And we have our event instance presenter itself, where it also refers to those things in terms of like that. Now that fails here. Undefined method display name for nil class on line 100 of the event instance presenter spec. So it's trying to get the display name out of there. Line 100 here. Ah, okay. So this has got another place where it's okay.
Pulling up on another scrum.
Yes. So that now passes. Views. Just assuming that this was the one that failed. It's certainly very disturbing if the Karma calculator spec would fail in batch. Yeah, okay, so we've got the same thing here for the event instance this spec. What line is that? 71? There we go. That, okay, and it's relying on, it's here. So that may just reveal some additional errors underneath, we will see. And the interesting thing is that as far as we know, I don't know exactly how the event, the presenter is used, but I assume it's being used in the, what have we got? We've got the views for the event instances for the Hangout page. So we've got this index here which goes through the event instances. I don't know if that's even the right place. Like, I sort of assume that where that presenter is being used would be here in the past events, and that's how it's sort of presenting this, right?
Yeah.
But maybe not. It's difficult to find somewhere, I guess, in the views. Then find in path there was a constant ties. No. There. Good grief. Let's see. Okay. If you scroll up in your history, can you see which things failed with that constantize for the presenter?
Where is it at? It's just some view.
Yeah,
That instances index. Spec is failing, so I assume it's go back to support lib. Enter uninitialized constant. Event instances index renders hangout extra info. Self.class presenter.constantize.no.
could you just share your screen very briefly so I can see the exact text? Right.
Is that not actually in there?
Well, they've got this. I guess they've got. It's kind of a constructed thing. We've got this present hangout, and I guess it then goes and that will then go and get whichever is the appropriate. Like we've got this base presenter. But presumably, if we've got a hangout presenter, yeah. The interesting thing here is that right. So when we render this partial, like this, I think it is this like index basic info and index extra info corresponds to these two elements of the system there, and so instead of passing in a pure Hangout or event instance, as we might otherwise call it, we pass in a Hangout presenter to index extra info, and in here, so when we're calling participants on this, that implies that we're calling Hangout participants on here. So the fact that it seems like that must have been working at some level, but maybe that's because somehow when it's running in context, it doesn't matter. But whereas, like if it's that, maybe there's this issue that if it's a Ruby serialized object, it's set up to be, it doesn't matter whether you call a symbol or a string, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But the way that we've constructed it using a factory, it's a different kettle of fish. Okay. All right. So we are definitely finding no other errors. There is just this one issue of our single standalone test there.
Failing now.
It passes individually. It passes if we run that set. But so, I think it does. I mean, I'm kind of tempted there to take it out. There, we're doing this description of the karma calculator. Yeah, they pass. That's fine. I guess if I run all the services, that's fine. So that implies that there's some additional something going on that's somehow affecting that. Oh, good grief. What a pain. I mean, I guess through a process of elimination, I could be running other sets of specs in parallel. But the whole point of these things is that they're supposed to run independently. And the way it's failing with a 0. Like if I mean, the other thing conceivable to do there is follow the approach that was being used in these other things, where we say, rather than, like we do this override operation.
Mm-hmm.
So we say that specifically this user we're going to lock that to there. I'll just comment those out for the time being. So 2 commas. Really? What's wrong here? What don't you like there? What? I somehow ended up with another end. Okay. Ah, Christ. That's what it is. Okay. So that passes. Hmm. That may still fail. I mean, it ends up seeming to me that see, we failed at doing drive-by coding today. The like if we wanted to kind of really go for this, it would be better to make some tests, like some clean tests around. What just happened there? I just minimized something. What? About around the Karma module, like if we were building tests for the Karma module, the Karma class, the Karma active record model, and then not reusing any existing factories might be safer. Because right, so I think I know why that might have failed.
Why?
Because we're using a sequencer in the factory.
Oh.
And
it's not reset per spec?
Maybe not. I mean, you would have thought that it should be, but I mean, we'll see if this now. See, that's now all passed in batch with that change. And the change that I've made there specifically is to say, right, let's actually lock that to what the ID is of this hangout that we've created.
Right.
So that implies that actually that had shifted, and what's the only way that could shift?
Right.
Because event instance has got this sequence thing here, and we can ask about factory girl sequence. I mean, I think the whole point of factory girl is to avoid the problems of fixtures, but we seem to have just encountered pretty much all the same problems you would get with. Oh, look into an anti-girl a factory girl anti-pattern. Request to make factory girl sequences reset after every test run. Okay. Well.
So they've chosen not to let you do that.
Or we're locked to an older version of factory girl that still doesn't do that, because it certainly didn't reset them at some point in the past. So and I guess I can probably safely at least re-enable these tests here. Gosh. Okay. And I wonder if could that have been the cause?
Yeah.
Could that have been cause of the
Yeah.
problem that we were seeing with the user here. Set up for you.
Could you bring back the after validation?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying.
See if it still works.
Yeah. And it doesn't.
Still fails.
Yes.
Interesting. You want to run the Qs now?
I will. I'll just make the Scrum Hangout as well, so we can summarize our day.